Who's not coming down the track? Who's not coming down the track? And the leader she is red and white. Ain't nothing finer in the rain. Ain't nothing finer in the rain. When the drunk are marching straight to bed. Come on, come on.
What's up, y'all? This is John and Mike back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. This is another one of our Puncher's Chance interviews that we're doing today with Jared from the Out of the Blue podcast. Jared, introduce yourself to the listeners. Just a little quick background and how you got into to covering Michigan.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, boys. Been covering Michigan since pretty much the start of the Harbaugh era around 2016 and was writing for MaizenBrew.com. And they paired me up with my now co-host, Andy. And just because we had similar, very weird, kind of out there writing styles, put us together on a podcast and been doing it ever since. And now mostly just do the podcast, but this year trying to branch out a little bit more into Detroit sports and stuff. So I like how you called it, though, the puncher's chance. That feels pretty apt for Michigan. So I'm in on this segment.
Awesome. Mike, do you want to go ahead and get into the Michigan recap from last season?
Yes, sir. It was an up and down year for the Wolverines. Growing up a Michigan fan, it was kind of tough to see what the offense looked like early on. But quick recap: 8-5 overall record last year with a bowl win over Alabama, which coincidentally beat Alabama twice in one calendar year. Can't relate. But Michigan did have their fourth consecutive win over Ohio State, and like I mentioned before, somehow won 7 regular season games without throwing a forward pass to someone other than tight ends like Colson Love.
Yeah, man. It was not the kind of year that we were expecting. As you mentioned, basically running a service academy offense and still getting to 8 wins, beating the eventual national champions, beating the first team out of the playoffs with our second stringers, mind you. A lot of those guys will be back. It was not playing at full strength. No Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, Will Johnston in that game, all off to the NFL. And yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. We all, as Michigan fans, I think collectively know that 8-5 is not going to get it done. You know, there were higher expectations coming off the national championship year. But ending the season the way we did certainly puts a little bit of a different flavor on it than if we would have bowed out to Ohio State. Like, I mean, they were favored by 20 something points in that game. If we would have bowed out to that one, dropped the Alabama game, it's dramatically different. And you might actually be hearing some like rumblings from Michigan fans. But because of the way it ended, I think we're just really optimistic for what it can be this year with some tweaks and improvements.
Oh, indeed. That's why I picked Michigan for my puncher's chance team for that reason again. Besides being a fan growing up with the Wolverines, the offense can only improve from what we saw last year. I mean, Michigan literally beat Ohio State with a Make-A-Wish quarterback. Not to poo-poo like what he overcame or anything like that, but I mean, yeah, that's not how we expect out of the quarterback room at all. Him and our Alex Orji, but yeah.
Yeah, no, man, it was, you don't have to sugarcoat it. It was a disaster of a quarterback room. And one of my biggest criticisms of the coaching staff was coming into the season thinking that quarterback room was going to be good enough to get it done. It just was not. And they've really made strides to overhaul that this year. It can't be worse, like you said, man.
Yeah, we were definitely sipping too much Kool-Aid thinking Alex Orji was going to be the answer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
same.
we honestly, the orgy was not explosive enough. Just just was not some quality orgy going on last year.
Nobody lets that.
No.
Fly, you know?
It did lead to some great jokes, though. I did enjoy all the content we got out of it, like the orgy in the end zone. That oh my God, Robert Griffin, I think, was the one that dropped that one. We had some fun with it, but as far as a player, he'll make a fine tight end somewhere.
What I said about Anthony Richardson too.
A little bit.
Yeah.
So we're going to jump right into quarterback. And so we're going to hit on some realistic expectations for Bryce Underwood. We've heard that he is a Gen Z version of Cam Newton, and even though we are not fans of comparisons to Cam Newton, um, that might be appropriate based on the field and off the field deals that got him to where he is. So, are you concerned it could be a Quinn Ewers situation where he went to Ohio State for the NIL money and then transferred to Texas?
Not really something. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it anyway. So spending a bunch of time worrying about it. But it seems like his parents are really bought in, and they were part of the reason that they were pushing for Michigan for a lot of what Michigan can provide academically as well, which is a big
Yeah.
piece of this that Michigan does have going for them. So no, I'm really not. I am high on the player though. I don't think that I can remember evaluating a prospect like this where his mechanics are so fluid. He's ready to go. He just looks like a different cat out there. And he's definitely our best option at quarterback right out of the gate. Like we brought in Mikey Keene, a transfer, but it's just different, man. You could even see it in the spring game. And the ball comes off of his arm differently, different kind of an athlete. Like in one of his highlight videos, he's just doing like the cleanest backflips in pads. Like he's a different dude, man. So super excited about it.
Mhm. What made Michigan decide they wanted to fully embrace NIL? Was it Harbaugh leaving, or I mean, did it have something to do with that? Because I mean, this is a totally different approach to building a roster than they had under Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And honestly, I don't really know exactly what it is other than people were starting to be willing to open up their pocketbooks. A couple billionaires at Michigan, in particular. I think like the guy that owns, I don't know the billionaires. I don't care. I
He's
don't track that. I just like the players
yeah,
that they get us.
yeah. It's like I think it was like what the wife of the second richest person in
Yeah,
the world, and then
Larry
Nate Portnoy,
Ellison, I think.
obviously. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Whatever
yeah.
he does, I don't know. Yeah, I don't pay attention to it, but yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
either.
it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it is, man, and it's led to some serious uptick in recruiting, and you just have to in the modern day in order to be competitive. You have to be up on the NIL stuff. Some people are trying to do it without it, and Clemson this year will be an interesting case study. We were kind of talking off air about Clemson, and we're on our podcast really high on what they could be, and kind of going a different route, and really that continuity, that year over year stuff. But yeah, Michigan really a factor now in the transfer portal with NIL money and stuff like that too. So as a fan, you just got to kind of embrace it. Not my favorite part of the game. I'm a little bit of a purist, but it is what it is, and you got to embrace it to be competitive.
Yeah.
And so, just getting back into the Bryce Underwood aspect of it, what are some realistic expectations for Bryce?
Heisman Trophy winner. I mean, he's legitimately the best prospect I've ever covered. I went in trying to be glass half empty with this kid and like nitpick here and there. His mechanics are insane. He like I said, a different kind of an athlete. Year one, I'm a little concerned about our offensive line, which I think is part of this discussion. And you really don't want to put him in bad positions and positions where like not only could he get hurt, but he also loses his confidence because he's behind an offensive line running around scared for his life. I don't think it'll be that bad, but I also think that Michigan wants to have a dominant run game, bleed the clock out, and just kind of protect this kid his first year. And if we're unable to run the ball like we want to, it could get a little dicey year one, but I have high expectations for him, man. They're going to probably ask him to be a overqualified game manager early on, and Jordan Marshall and Justice Haynes are going to run the heck out of the ball, and that's going to be the plan and the philosophy. But the expectations are extremely high. He's better than J.J. McCarthy, and I thought J.J. McCarthy was an awesome quarterback at Michigan, probably the best that I've ever covered, definitely the best I've ever covered, maybe the best to ever do it talent-wise, and this is better than that. So we're all really excited about it for sure, I think, across the board.
And you kind of already answered this, but I'll ask it anyway. So with the new offensive coordinator, Chip Lindsey, what should Michigan fans expect to see out of this new look offense that Chip's going to be calling?
Yeah, we're really excited about it. He was at North Carolina with Drake May. So first of all, that ability to work with the quarterback and develop the quarterback and put him in a position to succeed, we're super excited about. Kirk Campbell last year, for lack of a better term, wasn't it. Just wasn't getting it done. We weren't big fans, and we needed to obviously improve the quarterback room for starters. But the play calling would feel at times too cute, and then at times like like they didn't have an identity, and you can't really at Michigan and anywhere else, particularly Big Ten, SEC football, if you don't have an identity and don't know who you are on one side of the football, it's going to be really hard to win at a high level. So they made that move, brought in Chip Lindsey. I'm expecting a more dynamic attack. He does like to air it out a little bit more than you would think. Like at Michigan, we'll see how much he adapts to what Michigan wants to be stylistically and how much he wants to let the ball rip with Bryce Underwood. And maybe not this season, but maybe year two, I think you do see them start to really open it up a little bit. But I would imagine it looks pretty similar year one, because what they're trying to do is protect Bryce Underwood and let this top 5 defense, top 2 defense, maybe just take the air out of the ball a little bit. So I would imagine it's a little bit more conservative, and then they start to open it up. And maybe even like as the season goes along, you kind of see Chip Lindsey start to get in his bag a little bit, using receivers out of the backfield. There's a couple tight ends that I kind of like. Well, we can get into position group specifics, but they're definitely going to still use the tight end, particularly since our receiver room is not exactly what Georgia's got, or what like a lot of teams have got, to be honest. So yeah, it'll look a little similar early on, and then I could see it like starting to open up and be a little bit more pass friendly, particularly if Underwood's starting to cook.
So you kind of mentioned Justice Haynes and Jordan Marshall a little bit, but with the running game should be back to being a little bit more explosive with who they brought in and just the health of the room itself. But Michigan added, like we mentioned, Justice Haynes, who we view as a traitor just because he went to Alabama first. He's a Georgia legacy. Then he goes to Michigan. Why don't he want me, man? Question that we all. And then they obviously have Jordan Marshall, who came out strong at the end of the year. So how much better will the Michigan running game be even without Donovan Edwards? Which Donovan left a lot to be desired.
Cover athlete Donovan Edwards, if you will.
Yeah. Heck of an athlete, big game Dono, we called him, but like every down Dono, he was not. But in the big games, he would show up for us. So definitely will be missed. But yeah, I do think overall this running game could be better. So much of this comes down to the offensive line, which is a part of this discussion, and how improved they can be. But I am high on it. They're bringing back some guys there. They've recruited the position well, and that's a nice 1-2 punch. I'm a little higher on Jordan Marshall. I think he's very likely your lead running back, with Justice Haynes kind of filling in for spot duty. I like what Haynes could potentially bring out of the backfield as a receiver, which is interesting, and how much we utilize that. Bryce Underwood's legs are kind of a part of this conversation as well. His ability to create with his legs is something I think that they'll lean on. But you couple all that together, in year two, Jordan Marshall, who looked awesome against Alabama's number ones. I expect this to be a better running game, and the fact that we have an actual quarterback back there is going to open up some of those running lanes as well for these guys. So it'll be improved. Will it be national championship year level with Blake Corum level? I don't know. Maybe not this year. Maybe the following year is when that really rounds back into form, and we see Michigan be kind of a juggernaut running the ball again. But it will be improved. I feel confident in saying that.
So we've kind of mentioned it a couple times, the tight ends and wide receivers. But now that Michigan seems to be able to effectively throw the forward pass, what are some names to think of out of that pass catcher, wide receiver, tight end room?
Yeah. I would say Donovan McCulley's probably the leader in the clubhouse, the transfer from Indiana. He's a bigger bodied receiver, so I would imagine that he'll probably get the first crack at being the lead receiver. Bring back Samaj Morgan. So your mileage may vary on Samaj. I think for me, it does as well. Some other guys in there, Freddie Moore, that people are excited about. It's no murderer's row. Let's not fool anyone here. And there's no Calvin Johnson on this team. But I think Donovan McCulley will be your wide receiver number one. And at tight end, my co-host is a little higher on our tight ends than I am. I'd still like to see it a little bit, but there is an emerging player in Jalen Hoffman, 88-yard touchdown in the spring game. Looks like he could be a weapon for us as well. And then keep an eye out for Hogan Hansen as well. There's also the big German, Marlon Klein. Hogan Hance is an elite tight end, and we got some great names on the team this year. It's going to be a lot of fun. And so Hogan Hansen, I think, will be an impactful tight end this year. Could have a breakout kind of year just because tight end at Michigan, you're going to get a lot of targets. But yeah, watch out for Jalen Hoffman as well. And then Brady Prescorn as well is the brother of the Ole Miss kid, the Ole Miss tight end Prescorn. We've got him on the roster. He's coming off of an injury last year, but at some point should be a factor in that room as well. So we'll see. maybe it's a little bit of we'll wait and see on this. Definitely a drop off here after Loveland goes, though. But it is a deeper room. They've definitely recruited the position well, and they like what they've got with Jalen Hoffman. So there'll be some guys emerging here for sure.
Oh, Mike, you're muted.
Whoops, sorry. Baby in the background asking for stuff. Happens from time to time. Anyway,
It happens.
So Wink Martindale is back at DC. He has a lot of defensive talent.
Oh, we're on offensive line.
Oh shoot. Okay, my bad. All right. Do you want to ask that question? Because that was.
Yeah. So you mentioned a couple times with the offensive line, and that was the strength of Michigan a couple of years ago. Most notably with the "Run the Damn Ball" T-shirts worn before the Georgia Orange Bowl. But what do you expect out of the group this year?
Yeah, man, I think that's the biggest conversation. So much hinges on what that offensive line can be this year. It wasn't good enough last year. I mean, just flat out, a couple guys really underperformed, and then the unit as a whole underperformed. I said on our season preview last year that if this team doesn't have an A plus or at least an A level offensive line, everything about this offense falls apart. It was way worse at quarterback than I even imagined, but that was also true of like why this offense couldn't get up and moving is because we couldn't run the ball in the way that we had in years past. So much of it is going to depend on our ability to do that this year. And there's guys I like there. Giovanni El Hadi going to his more natural position at guard, and then at tackle, you've got Evan Link, who played a lot last year, and Andrew Sprague, who played 80-something snaps against Alabama in the ReliaQuest Bowl. Looks like a stud there. So if those guys hit on the edges, and Giovanni El Hadi is what I think he should be, like last year, he really underperformed, then I think we will take a step forward. It'll be slightly better. Can it be amazing? Can it be that A plus, A level? I don't know. I truly don't know. I'd like to see it a little bit more. I'm leaning a little pessimistic on that, but a lot is going to hinge on this. And if it can at least be A minus, B plus level, and they can really lean on some teams in the trenches, this team could win a lot of football games.
So, are there any other names on the offensive side of the ball that we should know about? So, if we're just casually watching a Michigan game at the bar, we sound like we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, a couple guys there. John Volker came on our pod, a third running back that transferred over. Really excited about him. So some depth there at running back. Jalen Hoffman at tight end, I mentioned as well. Andrew Marsh is a true freshman wide receiver that I'm really high on. Maybe not this year, but next year, when all of a sudden our wide receiver room looks a lot better with some of the recruiting that we've been doing. So I'm high on him potentially making an impact this year. So those are some guys. And Mikey Keene, people kind of forget that Mikey Keene transferred over here and was going to be the starter. He's been injured in camp and hasn't even really been able to provide competition for Bryce Underwood. But that could be a situation where you do see Mikey Keene early on if he was healthy, and then you work Bryce Underwood in, because I'm sure it would be their ideal scenario to not put Bryce Underwood out there against Brent Venables' defense early on. I would imagine that like Mikey Keene would be a great bridge for that, and then maybe you can put Bryce Underwood in spot duty like they did with JJ McCarthy. So those are a couple names to keep an eye on as well. Like I said, Donovan McCulley is going to be the wide receiver number one, I think.
Okay.
So moving over to the defensive side of the ball, Wink Martindale is back at defensive coordinator, but they've got a lot of talent to replace on that side of the ball. Mason Graham, Kenneth Grant, and Will Johnson, just to name a couple of guys. But who do you think is returning that's going to step up the most this year?
Oh, that's Rayshon Benny right there in the middle. Michigan quietly over the last couple of years has kind of become defensive line U. They've had a run, I mean, right up there with you guys and some of those big boys you guys have put out there. But they've put out some studs at defensive line. Rayshon Benny's the next up in that long lineage. He's going to be great for them this year. That front seven's going to be nasty. It's going to be very difficult to run on this team. And Wink Martindale's just a madman. Like, low-key, one of the biggest things we brought back was Wink Martindale because of his ability to just dial up up exotic pressures, really confuse quarterbacks. I think he's going to have just an elite year as a defensive coordinator. I think this is a top 5 unit just in the country, full stop. They're going to be a bear to play night in, night out. So Rayshon Benny, TJ Guy, Derek Moore on that defensive line, along with our 2 really good linebackers in Ernest Hausman and Jayshawn Barham. It's going to be a nightmare to try and run on this team. It's for sure the strength of the team, and I think that the defense alone is going to lead them to win a lot of games. Rod Moore at safety was as good as Caleb Downs and would have been one of the best in the country if he were able to play last year. It's been a long recovery. Supposedly he's going to be good to go and play this year, and if so, he's one of the best safeties in the country. The secondary is athletic and long. We've recruited long athletes in the secondary. There's a lot of guys to like, man, and I think it'll be once again Michigan putting a lot of guys into the NFL draft at the end of the year. A lot of these guys have that kind of potential.
So
what are some other? Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to ask, what have you heard about Troy Bowles, linebacker transferred in from Georgia?
Yeah. Seems like a great kid. Obviously, the son of a head coach, so he knows ball. I think he's going to probably start his career at Michigan a little bit more on special teams. We're really loaded at that position. There's a couple guys ahead of him, and he's a little rangier. He's not as big as some of our other guys. Not like a true middle linebacker guy. So I don't know like how much he would be able to stand up if you're playing down after down in the Big Ten. That's a pretty tough schedule for a guy that's like, I think 6'1" and 230 or something like that. But I do hear like great kid, great locker room guy, and we certainly love to have the depth there. I think he'll just be behind a few guys this first year. Excited to have him though.
Yeah, and that's kind of why he left Georgia too, is because I mean, C.J. Allen and Chris Cole both back-to-back years having a freshman All-American at your position. You're kind of gonna get lost in the wash there, and we're hoping that he does big things at Michigan. We love when players that just kind of got recruited over go and do well elsewhere. Never have anything bad to say about those guys.
It's different than the trader discussion from before. We have those guys at Michigan too, where it's like, well, he just couldn't get on the field. Like there's too many guys ahead of him. Like go be great somewhere else,
Yep.
Yeah. And what are some other names on defense that we should know going into this year?
Yeah, let's get real weird with it. How about Mason Curtis, a 6'4" defensive back that looks like a linebacker or even an edge rusher back there, likely starting alongside Brandon Hillman at safety, which just gives a fun, versatile, weird safety room. I personally think that Mason Curtis should move to linebacker, and then all of a sudden, that's a very scary player. It's a fun secondary. I mentioned Jair Hill taking over for Will Johnson as cornerback number 1. High expectations. He's going to be on an island a lot. Mentioned those linebackers, Hausman and Jayshawn Barham, the Maryland transfer, who I think could have a big year. Dom Nichols on the defensive line as well, along with some of those guys that I mentioned earlier. TJ Guy and Derek Moore will be your first 2 edge rushers, and I think that's an upgrade from last year where Josiah Stewart was awesome, but this is just a better unit. So some real pass rushers, some real edge rushers, some great defensive tackles in there, including an Alabama transfer and a Clemson transfer that will play and rotate on that defensive line as well. But yeah, it's top to bottom an incredible unit. If Rod Moore can play, that just adds even more fuel to this fire in the secondary, and it becomes just very difficult to pass on and nearly impossible to run on. So a couple other guys that I really like, Cole Sullivan, going to play some linebacker, can play some, come off the edge a little bit. He's a guy that I really like. So yeah, man, there's a lot of names. It's not like the Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham, Will Johnson triumvirate where like people know all these names, but there'll be names that people do eventually know once they show like this is going to be, like I said, a top 5 defense, and a lot of those names will start to become more household names. If I had to predict a star, I think one of those edge rushers could really pop. Derek Moore, Jayshawn Barham, somebody like that could get double-digit sacks and really start rising up boards.
All right, Mike, you've got this next one. I know it's near and dear to your heart.
Oh, man, it's so sweet. All right, so, I mean, personally, I have a 5-game winning streak against Ohio State, 4 with obviously Michigan and then the Peach Bowl, which I have plenty of Peach Bowl artwork behind me. I think I've seen it a little bit earlier. But, so does Michigan make it 5 in a row over Ohio State? And if so, does Ryan Day spontaneously combust all over the field because
Is
to me it seems. I mean, it
is
seems like a
Justin
beta move on
flammable?
his part. Very, I'm sure, right? But it
Yeah,
seems like a
man.
beta move on his part, just because I mean he's trying to de-emphasize the game after 4 straight losses, and then after he said after the cancellation in the COVID year that he was going to hang 100 on Michigan. He's not as confident now by any means, but
Still hasn't got to 100.
yeah,
Adding
he's
them
like
all
what,
up.
5 points away, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
That's
They
tough.
were. It was tough after it was over last year. After that, just demoralizing beatdown, 10-13, just ugly game. He was talking about like how it was like the death of his father, and we were like all feeling bad for him a little bit. We're like, dude, it is not that serious. Like, chill out, Ryan Day. Like, man, you need to get another hobby or something. I do think Michigan's going to make it 5 more in a row. If they couldn't beat last year's team, we're coming back to Ann Arbor this year. This is a better Michigan team, and he's got a Michigan problem. Like, obviously, a hell of a coach, and we saw like once they got to the playoffs, Michigan fans were dreading it because we're like, they're going to get hot. They're going to get hot and go on a run right now. We kind
Nobody
of knew
wants
it
to
was
play
coming.
Ohio State after they lose to Michigan.
No,
It took
exactly.
Georgia
They
12 miracles and midnight to beat them in Atlanta.
Right.
Exactly, man. Yeah, so I do think we're going to get him again this year. I think it's like a mental block. I think that Wink Martindale and this defense are just going to give whoever the quarterback is. Seems like it's Julian saying, you're talking. It's going to be loud. It's going to be cold. It's at the end of November, and Wink Martindale's just going to make his life hell. So yeah, I actually feel more confident about that game than like USC, which is crazy. We've come a long way. Like I'm worried about going out west to USC, but Ohio State, I'm like, I think we got that.
So like one of the things that I was thinking about with this God, now I lost my train of thought. Good Lord. It'll come back to me. Never mind. We move on. Sorry.
All right. So according to Hard Rock Sportsbook, Michigan's season win total over under is at 8.5. What side are we putting the mortgage on? Over or under? The under's minus 135 and over or opposite. Over is minus 135 and the under is plus 110.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a mortgage year for me. There's been some years where I felt very confident that that's what Michigan's going to get done, whether one way or another, usually over. I would lean over. I think that a 9-win season feels like the floor. It's a tricky schedule. You get Oklahoma in there, and then obviously you have Ohio State, but you avoid Penn State, which is great. So there's some other winnable games in there, like Wisconsin. Not too worried about that. Nebraska, bit of a swing game. USC, bit of a swing game. So I would go over. I feel like 9-3, 10-2 is probably what is likely for this team. And if not, it means that Sharon Moore is probably going to be getting some scrutiny because 8 wins in back-to-back years probably not going to keep too many fans enthused. Not to like, put all that on him and stuff. There's a lot that could happen this year. The development of Bryce Underwood, if you beat Ohio State, like that could change people's perceptions of it for sure. But yeah, I would say he needs to get it done this year. And 9-3, 10-2 is kind of what I'm feeling right now with that schedule.
Yeah. Now I do remember what I was going to ask now. Sorry about that. So going back to the Ohio game from last year, do you think Ryan and Chip Kelly tried to get too cute with it? Like they were too in their head and try to beat Michigan at their own game instead of like throwing to, I don't know, Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah. Oh, you're 100%. I might want to get the ball into that guy's hands. They were all up in their own heads. They were panicking. Like in the moment, you could tell like, oh my God, they don't know what to do. Now, some of that is Wink Martindale throwing crazy coverages at Jeremiah Smith. Like first it's Ernest Hausman on him, then he's passing him off to a safety, and then like that safety's bracketing him with Jair Hill, and it's like, oh my God, like they threw some exotic stuff at him, and he's a mad scientist back there. But yeah, you're absolutely right. They did try and get too cute with it and try and like, no, we got to run the ball and like we got to beat Michigan at their own game. Like Michigan would love to get down in a phone booth and play a knockdown defensive run struggle game. Like you just played right into their hands. So I doubt they'll go out swinging like that. Not swinging like that again this year. I would have to imagine they'll go out, throwing the ball to Jeremiah Smith, and we're going to live and die by that. But Michigan's got answers for that too. So, if they're throwing exotic looks and you start to pick off Julian Sayin or something like that, you can get into a young quarterback's head. So, yeah. To answer your question, I 100% think that you're onto something there with that analysis.
All right, and I'm sure you knew the question was going to come up at some point. What's your take on the Connor Stallion situation?
Yeah, I've been pretty vocal about it on our podcast. I think the guy's a loser. Personally, I'm not a huge fan, but he's really good at what he does. And at the time that they were doing it, it was legal. And what he did went a step too far, but it was also an extremely dumb situation that they immediately remedied in college football the next year. The NCAA president himself came out and said Michigan won fair and square. We're just ready for it to be done, to be honest. Like, I can't speak for all Michigan podcasters, but I feel pretty confident in saying we're all kind of just like, dude, enough. There's been so many suspensions, and when the suspensions come down, and it's been really difficult to just like keep it about football when there's so much happening regarding the sign stealing scandal thing. There's a whole freaking Netflix documentary about it, which I came away thinking nothing different than when I went in. I had no changed opinion. So it's unfortunate. I think that they probably, if I had to guess, will not accept Michigan's self-imposed punishment. I think Sharon Moore will probably miss 4 games instead of 2. I think there could be some like removal of scholarships and things like that. And then I think it'll probably be over. The NCAA wants this thing to be over too. They don't want to like people. No, they're going to come down and hammer Michigan. That's bad for college football. Michigan is a premier brand. They don't want to come in and say our sport is broken and Michigan broke it, like, and then have to deal with all that. It's a bad look for college football. So I think it'll be over here soon, but I do think they'll hit Michigan with a little bit more than a wrist slap.
I don't.
And my argument was always that even like when the whole Connor Stallion thing came out, they had the meat of their schedule after that. They went on the road and ran the ball 700 straight times against Penn State. They beat Ohio State, again, won the Rose Bowl and won the national championship. So, I mean, for the people saying that's not legitimate, they can go kick rocks. I mean, that was their whole schedule right there after all that stuff came out, and they still went undefeated.
Yeah. Exactly. Without our coach, too, because we found out as we were going wheels down in Penn State that Jim Harbaugh wouldn't be able to coach, and Sharon Moore stepped in. Yep. And as you mentioned, famously ran the ball 30 freaking times in a row or whatever he did. And yeah. So, I mean, I completely agree with you there, and it'll be nice to just get back to talking about football again.
To me, the wildest part about what the NCAA has done with it is we're arguing, or they're arguing about things that happened in 2022 and before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they claim to want to be over this situation. All right. Well, the head coach that was responsible at the time already missed 6 games that season, right? Sharon Moore has missed multiple games over the past, what'll be 2 years once this season starts. If you want to be done with it, just shut up about it. Say, all right, Michigan did what they needed to do. But they keep dragging it out because they have to feel like they're responsible for something when it comes to college football. Like
yeah, and the NCAA has been
enemy of college football at this point.
We all agree here, gentlemen. Yeah, they just want to feel some semblance of control and power still, even though they've clearly lost it long ago. So I'm with you.
Yeah, give Jim Harbaugh a show cause. You know what? You can't come back to college football.
It's like, fine. I'm enjoying LA just fine.
Right.
All right. So we appreciate you coming on and talking to us. We both learned a lot. I think I am higher on Michigan now. I think last year just kind of burned me with inability to throw a forward pass. But I'm not going to say I'm all in on Bryce Underwood, but I'm skeptical but optimistic. I'll say that. Is there anything you would like to plug before we get out of here?
Yeah. If you want more Michigan content, Out of the Blue podcast, you can search Out of the Blue Maize and Brew. Maize and Brew, great place for all Michigan stuff. Doing a little bit more Detroit-oriented stuff, more Pistons, Lions, Red Wings, Tigers, all that stuff this year. So breaking out into YouTube, it's Out of the Blue anywhere you search it, or OOTB Sports. You can find us there. So appreciate you boys having me on, and love chopping it up. Looking forward to the season. Might see you guys in the playoffs if it all goes right.
Yep. I do have one question for you before you get out of here. Talking about the Detroit sports stuff. Are we still on board with the Yasser plan? Like,
I don't know, man.
I'm beyond frustrated with it, man.
Yeah, I don't think so, actually. I'm like, where are the dividends that we were supposed to be seeing? It seems it's the exact same, and like nothing's changed over this whole time. So I'm with you. I'm waning on that.
Yeah, we have Patrick Kane's corpse for a third year. That's exciting.
Sweet. Like that was the big move. I was actually excited
Yeah.
about it for a minute, but yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's been a little bit depressing too. And just to see all these like Florida teams and stuff and all these Southern teams, I'm like, this is a hockey town, man. People are ready to go nuts for Detroit hockey, but alas, Tigers though.
Yeah.
Tigers are legit. Yeah.
I mean, everybody but the Red Wings, which is weird.
I know.
mean,
Yeah, the
at
full
least,
resurgence,
but,
except for the Red
Yeah.
Wings. Yeah, it's crazy right now. It's weird.
Yeah.
So, with contract issues with Scooble and the Tigers, are there any chance he gets dealt at the deadline? As
Oh
a
my
Braves
God,
fan,
bro.
I'm hoping that we decide to pay him.
My God,
Absolutely
bro.
not.
I will.
Not yet.
I
Not
will.
yet.
No. I will hand out pitchforks myself outside of Tiger Stadium if they trade Tarek Skubal.
That's fair.
Just pay him, pizza boy. Pay him.
Scooble by himself won me my fantasy baseball league 2 years ago. So I have so much love for the guy. I just want to see him with some tomahawks instead of some old English.
I wouldn't hate it.
You get that blasphemy out of here. You get that blasphemy out of the chat. Yeah.
All right. We
cool.
appreciate you coming on and talking to us. We got a couple of things to close up on, but have a good one and hope to see you in late December or January.
That'd be fun. Appreciate it, boys. Take it easy.
See ya.
I appreciate it.
All right, y'all. We appreciate Jared for coming on and talking to us. I'm sure if y'all listen to the show for a while, you know it takes a lot to get me to be a believer in a team that I don't already believe in. And he has convinced me that Michigan will at least understand the forward pass this year.
That's a big jump, man. That's huge.
From a bad
didn't
service
watch.
academy last year to understanding a forward pass. Wild jump.
You didn't have to watch every single snap this team had last year, so consider yourself lucky.
Well, you didn't either.
I didn't have to, but I'm just a glutton for punishment.
Yeah, so we're pretty excited about that. We're gonna try and keep these Puncher's Chance interviews rolling. If not, we got a couple of other things coming in the pipeline. Also, watch parties for somewhere on Tybee Island are looking like they are a go. I'm not gonna announce that until we have everything kind of at least on some ink on some paper as far as that goes. But we're excited. It'll be a family-friendly environment where, you know, they're much more open to our schedule and kind of letting us do more or less whatever we want, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But if y'all haven't already, please follow us on social media, rate and review the show 5 stars. All that kind of stuff helps us out. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are 10 subscribers from being able to go live with podcasts.
Yeah, let's
or doing some sort of like Thursday night of week 0 Hawaii versus Boise State commentary situation on YouTube. So subscribe on YouTube, all that fun stuff. SEC Big Ten Challenge. I spent half of my day sending the rest of the games today, so those will be up Tuesday and Thursday for the rest of the time that we need to post them. And then, like Mike was talking about last week, sometime around the beginning of August, we should be starting a College Football 26 Dynasty League conference situation there. Going to try and get as many people as want to join in that one. But if it's up to me, we'll do group of 5 teams only. Like you can't
outside of Florida,
Ohio State.
Outside of Florida, Florida's allowed to be in this, but everybody else has to be group of 5.
I don't know. The Florida team's pretty talented. They have terrible coaching, but they have good talent.
Yeah. Speaking of that game, though, I'll tell you what. Everybody, I know you're not super on board with Gunnar and Zachariah Branch, but in the new game, they're 1 and 2 in the Heisman for me so far.
Well, actually, I was doing the sim of the USC at Florida game earlier today, and Zachariah Branch scored all of the touchdowns for USC.
There we go.
Spoiler, wasn't a lot. It was all of them. Yeah, that's going to do it for this episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. We appreciate y'all. If y'all want to help us out, I just talked about it. I need to go see if I'm actually sunburnt or if it's just the lighting because I look as red as Mike's shirt right now. But as always, remember there's nothing finer in the land
Then I'm Max the Shorts fan.
Recording stopped.